My name is Rohan, and I live in a small town in India. For as long as I can remember, I have heard stories about a faraway city called Jerusalem. My grandmother used to tell me tales from the Bible, painting vivid pictures of its ancient stone walls and holy sites. She spoke of it as a place where heaven and earth meet, a city that holds deep meaning for people of many faiths. As I grew older, this city captured my imagination. The dream to walk on its sacred ground, to breathe its historic air, and to see the places I had only read about in books started to grow inside me like a tiny seed, slowly but surely taking root in my heart. The first step towards making this dream come true was getting a passport. It sounded like a very grown-up and complicated thing to do. I had never traveled outside of India before, so this felt like a huge leap. I went to a local internet cafe and, with some help, filled out the long application form online. I had to be very careful with every detail, checking my name, address, and date of birth again and again. After submitting the form, I got an appointment to visit the big Passport Seva Kendra in the city. The thought of going to a government office was a little scary, but my excitement was much bigger than my fear. This was the real beginning of my journey. A few days later, I traveled to the city for my passport appointment. The office was a large modern building filled with many people, all waiting for their turn. I clutched my documents tightly, my heart beating fast. When my number was called, I went to a counter where a kind officer checked all my papers. They took my photograph and my fingerprints on a special machine. It was a very organized process, and everyone was professional. I felt a sense of relief and accomplishment as I walked out of the office. I was one step closer to Jerusalem. The dream was slowly turning into a plan, and I could feel the momentum building with each small success. The final part of the passport process happened a week later. 2 police officers came to my house for verification. They were polite and asked my parents a few questions to confirm that I really lived at our address. They checked my documents one last time and then left. This was a standard procedure to ensure everything was correct. After they left, a quiet anticipation filled our home. Now, all I could do was wait. Every day, I would ask my father if there was any news. The wait felt long, but my hope remained strong. I kept imagining holding that little blue book in my hands, a book that would open the doors to the world and, most importantly, to the holy city of Jerusalem. One sunny afternoon, a courier delivery person arrived at our doorstep with a special envelope. My hands trembled slightly as I signed for it. Inside was my brand new passport. Seeing my name and photograph printed in it was an amazing feeling. It was real. This little booklet was my ticket to an adventure I had dreamed of for years. I held it in my hands, flipping through the empty pages, imagining them filled with stamps from different countries. The first stamp, I hoped, would be from Israel. The passport felt heavy with the weight of my dreams and the promise of the journey that lay ahead. It was a tangible piece of my future, right there in my hands. With my passport ready, the next task was to apply for a visa to Israel. I sat down at our family's old desktop computer and opened the official visa application website. The form was detailed, asking about my travel plans, where I would stay, and the purpose of my visit. I wrote from my heart, explaining that I was going on a personal pilgrimage to see the holy sites. I scanned and uploaded all the necessary documents: my passport, a photograph, my flight details, and a letter explaining my trip. Clicking the submit button felt like sending a prayer out into the world. Now, another period of waiting began, and I prayed that my application would be approved. A week later, an email arrived that made my heart leap with joy. My visa for Israel had been granted. I shouted with happiness and ran to tell my parents. We were all so thrilled. The dream was getting closer and closer. That very evening, I went online to book my flight ticket. I found a flight from Bangalore to Tel Aviv. Seeing the confirmation in my email, with my name and the flight details, made everything feel incredibly official. I was actually going to Jerusalem. I printed the ticket and kept it safely with my passport, looking at it several times a day, hardly able to believe that this was all happening. The day of my flight finally arrived. My family drove me to Kempegowda International Airport in Bangalore. The airport was huge and bustling with activity. I felt a mix of excitement and nervousness as I said goodbye to my parents. I walked into the terminal, found my airline's counter, and showed them my ticket and passport. In return, they gave me my boarding pass. After that, I went through immigration, where an officer stamped my passport, officially marking my exit from India. Then came the security check. Finally, I was in the international departure area, waiting for my gate to open. I was on my own, but I felt a strong sense of purpose guiding me forward. Walking through the aero bridge and stepping onto the airplane was a surreal experience. I found my window seat and settled in, my eyes wide with wonder. I had never been on a plane before, so everything was new and fascinating to me. I watched the flight attendants demonstrate the safety procedures and listened carefully to the captain's announcement. As the plane began to move slowly on the runway, my excitement grew. I could feel the powerful engines rumbling beneath me. I pressed my face against the window, trying to soak in every single moment of this incredible new adventure that was just beginning. Then, the plane accelerated with a mighty roar, and I felt a gentle push back into my seat. In a matter of seconds, we were lifting off the ground. The feeling of takeoff was incredible, a mix of power and grace that I had never imagined. I watched as the buildings and cars of Bangalore grew smaller and smaller below until they looked like tiny toys. It was a completely new perspective on the world I knew. Soon, we were high above the ground, and the city disappeared from view, replaced by a patchwork of fields and rivers. The world from above looked so peaceful and vast, and I felt a sense of awe at the sight. As we climbed higher, the plane entered a world of pure white clouds. It was like flying through a giant cotton candy kingdom. The sun shone brightly above them, creating a breathtakingly beautiful scene. I felt so small, a tiny speck in the vast expanse of the sky, yet I also felt incredibly free. For hours, I just sat there, looking out the window, lost in my thoughts. I thought about my family back home, about my grandmother's stories, and about the holy city that awaited me at the end of this journey. The flight was not just a physical journey, it was a time of reflection and quiet anticipation for what was to come. After what felt like a long but magical time, the captain announced that we were beginning our descent into Tel Aviv. I looked out the window and saw the coastline of Israel appear, with the deep blue of the Mediterranean Sea meeting the land. My heart started beating faster again. We were almost there. The plane landed smoothly at Ben Gurion Airport, and a round of applause spread through the cabin. I had arrived in the Holy Land. As I walked out of the plane and into the airport, I took a deep breath. The air felt different. I had crossed oceans and continents to be here, and my long-held dream was finally within reach. After clearing immigration and customs at Ben Gurion Airport, I stepped outside into the warm Israeli air. I found a taxi to take me to Jerusalem. The driver was a friendly man who pointed out sights along the way. As we drove, he showed me something in the sky, a trail of smoke. He explained it was from the Iron Dome, an air defense system that protects the country. Seeing it in action was a stark reminder that this beautiful land has a complex and challenging reality. It made me feel a mix of awe and soberness. The journey was not just through a landscape of faith, but also through a land of modern-day resilience and strength. The taxi climbed the hills towards Jerusalem, and soon, I saw the iconic golden stone buildings of the city. My heart was pounding with anticipation. The driver dropped me near the old city, and I walked the rest of the way. And then, I saw it, the Western Wall. It was even more magnificent than in the pictures. The ancient stones were huge, and I felt a powerful sense of history radiating from them. I saw many Jewish people praying there, dressed in their traditional black coats and hats. Some were rocking back and forth in deep prayer. Suddenly, the deep, resonant sound of a shofar, a ram's horn, echoed through the plaza, sending shivers down my spine. I approached the wall slowly, feeling a deep sense of reverence. I touched the cool, ancient stones and closed my eyes. I said a silent prayer, a prayer of thanks for this journey and for the peace of this sacred city. I spent a long time there, just watching and feeling the incredible spiritual energy of the place. It was a place of deep devotion, a focal point of faith for so many people for thousands of years. Being there, I felt connected not just to my own faith, but to the shared human quest for something divine, something greater than ourselves. It was a moment of profound peace and connection. Later, I walked along the Via Dolorosa, the path Jesus is said to have walked to his crucifixion. This led me to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, a place held sacred as the site of Golgotha, where Jesus was crucified. Standing in that spot, my imagination took over. I thought about the pain and suffering that had occurred right where I stood. I pictured the scene from the stories I had heard all my life. An overwhelming wave of emotion washed over me, and tears welled up in my eyes. It was not sadness, but a deep, emotional connection to a story of ultimate sacrifice and love. This journey from my small town in India to the heart of Jerusalem was more than just a trip. It was a pilgrimage that had touched my soul and deepened my faith in ways I never thought possible.